Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to episode number 83 of the In a Crowded Room podcast, where once again we are going to discuss the ongoing predictions of a gentleman named Daniel David Skyfall. Now, if you are new to this name, or if you're just now hearing it, Mr. Skyfall came into my life right after we started touring with Sir No Face, and we started getting, people telling us that Sir No Face is not it's not a ghost, it's an alien gray. Please reopen the case. And I made the choice to do that. One day I opened my email, and this is all documented in the Two Face the Great documentary. I opened my email, and there is this book-sized email, and I mean book-sized. And it caught my eye right away because I was like, man, if this is just like, a fan or somebody that's just into my work that wants to, fuck with me or something, I mean, this is just a lot of effort. I mean, to, try to mislead me, there was just so much information there. And really what it was is the history, basically, of multiple governments and their contact, I guess you could say, and agreements and ongoing relationship with extraterrestrials starting way back in the 30s. And it was fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating. And at first I didn't understand why this gentleman, Skyfall, wanted me to read this. Now, when it was all over, I understood in retrospect what he was doing. He was basically making sure that I was educated, on the UFO narrative and the extraterrestrial narrative. And what I learned, according to him, is that he had once worked, which he still may. He never actually said, I quit. But he said he once worked for an unacknowledged group, a dark agency, if you will, an intelligence agency, in which his job was to essentially muddy the waters when it came to the UFO narrative, to guide it and steer it as far as the public, as far as how the public sees the UFO narrative, and make sure that he discredited everything that came out about UFOs. And that, includes in the news, online reports. This is what Daniel David Skyfall claimed that he did. And after giving me this long piece of history and all of these cases, all these examples of interactions with different governments throughout different time periods, the point of the story that Skyfall had given me was to set up and demonstrate that mankind had made three very costly mistakes that were essentially coming to a head, and that there was going to be some form of an interaction, some form of a public statement, call it an invasion of ETs, a legitimate one, in which they were going to make their presence felt, and they were going to essentially not wipe us out, but lay down the law and basically be like, listen, there are some things you cannot do that we are not going to let happen. And he listed kind of what those three things were. One was the continued use of nuclear weapons, which he sent me footage of what absolutely appears to be Saudi Arabia, launching and striking with a nuclear bomb in Syria. The footage is shocking, and it is clearly not your standard bomb. It is something that, absolutely appears to be a nuclear weapon. But he had warned that mankind did not learn our lesson with the damage that we did during the nuclear tests, and that we would be moving back into an era of nuclearization. This was his prediction. He also spoke about the advancement of AI, and that we are flirting with what could be imminent disaster if we actually do create something that can truly think for itself, a sentient being that can determine at speeds we can't even fathom, what the best path moving forward would be. And since human beings are the most destructive creatures on planet Earth, Skyfall viewed this invention of AI and the potential of it as something far more terrifying than even nuclear weapons, which this has been echoed by Elon Musk as well and others. And the third thing that he talked about is he pretty much said we destroyed our planet, that it started with the oil companies that kept digging and digging and digging and wanting to go deeper and deeper and deeper and get to different reserves throughout the world that were just too deep, but that there were companies that pushed so hard that they actually punctured the Earth's crust. And one of these punctures, he said, took place in Siberia, in which once this happened, this hot, mixture of gas, I forget what the gas was, that came out of the Earth's crust, but it went up into our atmosphere. And basically, the long and short of it is that we destroyed our own weather. And for decades, we have been controlling the weather, and that it's been man-made. But we are losing, I guess, the battle of controlling the weather, because you see things like global warming. The planet has started heating up, and climate change has taken over at a ridiculous level, to the point where we're seeing storms bigger than they ever have before. We're seeing droughts that are just so uncharacteristic of what should be happening. We're seeing that in places where, it was once winter during a certain month, now it's summer, and this happened over the course of a couple years. It wasn't like the planet heated up 1 degree over the course of 1,000 years. This has been happening at a very rapid speed, and it's causing chaos with what appears to be nature, which is actually, according to Skyfall, again, it is, when I say us, I mean mankind, actually controlling the weather. Now, the reason Skyfall pointed out these three things that mankind has done is because he claims that there is going to be a real alien invasion in which extraterrestrials are either going to invade or let themselves be known, because he also believes that they're already here. So I think he thinks there's going to be more of a public outing, per se, in which the extraterrestrial races, plural, are going to essentially, let human beings know, you guys have destroyed the planet, and it is almost to the point that, there is no going back, and that they are going to introduce technology that will help us course correct the damage that we've done, and they are going to make sure that no matter what, we are denuclearized, because Skyfall had claimed that, again, nuclear weapons are actively being used today in wars. And basically, they were going to introduce this 0-point energy, this technology that allowed free energy for everybody in the world, which would ultimately destroy the energy industry, the energy giants of the world, which are amongst the wealthiest people, as well as the industrial and military complex. Because the idea would be that these extraterrestrial races would introduce a peaceful way of life that everyone could adhere to, in which we would essentially have a collective, as far as like humanity. That's what we all would adhere to, not governments, not states. So the extraterrestrial concept is in many ways a one world government, but it's not a traditional government. It's more like us all accepting that we are human beings and we have to, work together to be, successful as far as carrying our race on, carrying, our species on into the future. And what Skyfall is saying is that the energy giants and the industrial military complex giants do not want this to happen because their wealth and power is rooted in old technology. They do not want to see this happen, and they do in fact want to have a war with ETs, as they falsely believe, the globalists I'm referring to, falsely believe that they've back engineered enough of this alien technology that they stand a chance in actually defeating them at a battle in which the globalists want Earth to be a breakaway planet, basically, that we do not want oversight from extraterrestrials, that we want to manage ourselves, and that keeps the the energy elite and the industrial military complex in power, and keeps them where they have absolute control over everything that goes on in the world. Now, Skyfall is saying in order for this to happen, mankind would have to come together against the extraterrestrial species and the extraterrestrial races that introduced this technology and denuclearize us. And, basically, mankind would have to believe that ETs are essentially the enemy, that they are here to wipe us out and destroy us and kill us. And that's why there's been so much propaganda suggesting as much, in which, Skyfall is saying it just isn't true, that the alien races that visit us and have visited us and, are in a treaty with us, he's saying that they are absolutely peaceful. And although they have the ability to completely annihilate us, that is the last thing that they want to have happen. Okay. Now, as fascinating as this entire story is, guys, I don't want you for 1 second to think that I just believe everything, the Skyfall sent me. Because as fascinating as this story was that he sent me, and it really is fascinating. Of course, every part of me, questioned it and questioned his legitimacy, in which I initially thought, that perhaps he's not crazy, and but perhaps this is just his views, and he's basically pretending to be this person with some kind of inside scoop in hopes that I will listen to his overall opinion. That's what I was initially thinking. So I tried first and foremost to get him to just drop the moniker of Daniel David Skyfall, because dare I say that's not his Christian name. And he confirmed that was, a cover name. But he also made it clear to me that he's not coming forward, that it's far too dangerous, and to do so would not necessarily even put him at risk, but it would, put his family at risk, which was the most important thing, in his world, which he had iterated several times. So I said, okay, well, if your family's in danger by you coming out and revealing your identity, then you've got to do something to let me know that you're real. And that, my friends, is when the prediction started. And if you follow me on social media, you will know this to be true, because way back on December 29th, I received a message from Skyfall making several predictions, but the one that struck me as the most obvious to test was he stated that in the following 6 months, there would be a massive amount of mainstream media stories on the UFO narrative, and that UFOs are real, and that it would be the military confirming this. He made this prediction on the 29th. Now, what followed was incredible. It was like it was on cue. It started out with, the Pentagon saying Yes, these 3 videos came from us that were released by Tom DeLonge's group, To the Stars Academy, which I'm going to talk about them shortly. And it was weird because, like, every couple weeks, it was like the government was just dipping their toes in a little bit more and more into the water. And pretty soon an ankle was in the water. Pretty soon it was a knee. Because it started out as, oh, here's 3 videos that Tom DeLonge released that they all happened a long time ago. We just have these 3 videos, no big deal. And then the next thing you know, there's a new report that this didn't happen just once, that this happens, quite a few times, that multiple pilots on a couple of these videos had actually experienced this activity and experienced these UFOs. And it just kept growing. And the next story is how the U.S. Navy now takes this really seriously, and they're changing their UFO reporting protocol. And this is like front page news. And that keeps growing. And pretty soon the New York Times releases an article. And this is all within the exact 6-month window that Skyfall predicted this would happen. And again, if you follow me, you know that on December 29th, I made this prediction on behalf of Skyfall. And I didn't make it, but this is the prediction that he gave me. And it blew my mind because, like I said, all of a sudden there's a story in the New York Times with multiple pilots talking about how, between 2014 and 2015, and not only were they having UFO sightings as a fighter pilot, but every single time they would go up, they would experience these UFOs. And this was the case with the UFOs off the coast of Virginia. And that literally they were talking about for a straight year that every time they would go up and do their, runs, basically, flying, these UFOs would be there. And what blew me away about that is it's like, oh my God. See, the way this works is it's not like a bunch of pilots woke up. I think there was 5 different pilots that talked to the LA Times, okay? That's not a choice that enrolled and enlisted, pilots will make on their own. I mean, there's no way that they would be like, well, I'm just going to go talk to the New York Times today about these UFOs I saw, and, I'll be back reporting for duty tomorrow. That doesn't work that way. The only way that these pilots could be speaking about this is if the Department of Defense set this up and greenlit it and chose the guys that they want to speak about this phenomena. So I'm watching this unfold going, how in the fuck did Skyfall know that? How did he possibly know that this was coming right now? I mean, was it just an amazing guess that he just thought, this is going to be the time period where, disclosure finally happens, so let me just make this prediction? It just seemed crazy to me. I was like, how could he possibly predict that unless he knew it was coming? And the media barrage of UFO stories was not the only prediction he made. He made a lot of predictions, and they're slowly but surely coming true. He predicted that although Donald Trump would be impeached, that he would win a second term as the energy elite, or the power elite, as he refers to them, which are the energy elite and the industrial military complex elite that make up the globalists. He claimed that they had selected Trump to usher in disclosure, that he would be the one to officially do it and make the statement to the world after a false flag event, a fake alien invasion. He would be the one to usher in, disclosure, and basically rally the world to come together to fight this common enemy. And I had asked him in this email, well, how is this all going to play out? Like, if you know and you're connected, you got to give me more. Now, keep in mind, I'm already blown away by the fact that he can just make the statement, start watching the media, this is going to happen, and then it happens, right? Like, I'm just like, wow, this is totally crazy. So now we're back to a different place in time where I'm still not acknowledging that as ultimate proof. I'm telling him I need more, I need more, I need more. Okay? So he makes, like I said, a few more predictions, but one of the most unique ones, which, again, on a previous podcast, if you go back and listen to it, Skyfall claimed that right before the fake alien invasion, which will give way to a real invasion, he said what will usher this whole thing in will be a war in the Middle East. That it's coming. A war is going to be staged, set up, and entered into, in which there is going to be a fake alien invasion, and that will basically end the war in the Middle East, as everybody will realize, supposedly human beings will realize, that we have to band together to fight this one common enemy. But he said there will be a war that breaks out in the Middle East that will involve the U.S. And now, like clockwork, look what's going on with Saudi Arabia. Their oil fields were just halved, absolutely halved, in which, Trump is saying Iran was responsible, and now we're on the verge of a Middle Eastern war happening, as Skyfall predicted. As he predicted. And I just wanted to know how many of you put that together, that Skyfall claimed this. So, we know that he came out and said, okay, you want proof? I'm not going to put my identity out there because that puts my family at risk as well as, my own life. So he says, okay, you want proof? Start watching the media. This is going to happen. These stories are going to happen. They're going to involve the military. It's going to be an attempt to, prove that these things, and then like clockwork, this happens. Then he says, oh, by the way, Trump's going to get impeached, but he won't be taken out of office. They just announced impeachment proceedings. He said, Trump is going to usher in disclosure, which Trump has been interviewed about the presence of UFOs, which he says he finds the whole thing fascinating. And it's just crazy that the president is now openly talking about this. And then, once again, on my podcast, I repeated his prediction that there would be a war in the Middle East that would break out. And once this war was in full swing, that is when the false flag, fake alien invasion would occur, as the realization that we have a common goal. The globalists, the energy elite, the power elite, they are banking on the fact that mankind will say, okay, forget our borders, our constitutions, any of that stuff. We now have to band together as a species with one common leader in order to save our species. And again, he said this will, be accomplished by a fake alien invasion, which is not a far-off concept that's crazy. Many, many people believe that this was going to happen, including Wernher von Braun, the head of our, rocketry program, who was a Nazi at one point. Wernher von Braun, on his deathbed, said, beware of the fake alien invasion. Now, I want to stress this. I know how crazy this all sounds, but at what point, do I have to acknowledge, publicly and personally, that Skyfall is real? Because everything he is saying, everything he's predicted, it is literally happening exactly as he says it. Exactly. And for a while, I really did wonder if Skyfall was a part of Tom DeLonge's group, but I don't think he is, and I'll tell you why. If you look at everybody that's surrounding Tom DeLonge, what's really strange is everybody that is surrounding him, they are these military guys. Everything is big energy or big military. Most of it is big military. The Skunk Works program, Lockheed Martin, Northrop, like all these companies are like military weaponry companies. And I can tell you this, Skyfall is not about the military. And the more and more I thought about it, there's no way, from what I can gather about Skyfall, there's no way that Skyfall would be in league with nothing but military and energy guys, which is exactly who Tom DeLonge is in league with. Now think about this too. Tom DeLonge in his interviews would love to tell you, and I've done a podcast about this as well, he would love to tell you that the reason all these people are supporting him is because he was persistent, and he's a genius, and he wrote this book, and he figured stuff out, and then all of these guys suddenly wanted to work with him. Like, I don't think he's seeing that he's a pawn for the industrial military complex as well as the energy elite. Because why is there not one single person in DeLonge's circle, not one person in his circle that cares about like the environment, that cares about the social impact of having extraterrestrials coming forward? It's nothing. It's energy and weapons. Like, that's it. And I also watched Tom DeLonge's show on Discovery, his UFO investigation series that has his entire team around him. There's a couple things that shocked me kind of about the whole thing, and it just became so obvious to me that something is off with this To the Academy company. For one, there's no women whatsoever that support his cause. It's all men. Like I said, it's all military and energy. That's it. That's who surrounds him. And in the actual series itself on Discovery Channel, they talk about over and over again that they don't want to, broach the possibility with the public or with Congress or with anybody that they're talking to that, possibly these, things that are flying around, these UFOs, could be extraterrestrial, because that's when they lose all credibility. That it's all about whether or not it's a, basically an issue for national defense. They just weaponize everything about it. Everything about it. And I'm sitting here going, why is it that Tom DeLonge, this dick and fart joke guy, suddenly has, all these clearly intelligent and powerful individuals that are in his corner, that they all appear as though they were ordered to work with him? I mean, how else can you explain this? And again, they're all military and energy guys. They're all guys that would take orders. There's no women. There's no like environmental expert, that is also into the UFOs. Like, there's nothing like that. It's all military men. And the last thing I just want to add is that Lou Elizondo is his name. That's the guy that was supposedly the former head of the dark agency, as well, it's now dark, but the agency that spent $22 million investigating UFO claims. That this was an agency within the Pentagon called ATIP, and this Lou Elizondo supposedly was the head of it. Now, on Tom DeLonge's show on Discovery, Lou's like the main guy, and I just want to say this, guys, and this is pure opinion. There's nothing I can say to prove this. This is just my opinion. Lou Elizondo, I think that's how his name is pronounced. That guy appears to me to be a complete actor. A complete actor. And this is, take it from a director that's worked with talent on and off screen. You can always tell the camera hates actors. It picks up liars 10 miles away. And this Lou Elizondo, every time he talks, it just feels scripted. He feels like an actor. He talks like an actor. Like, my dad was a military guy. I know how military men carry themselves, and there's something very different about it comparatively to anybody else. And this Lou Elizondo just does not have that. He honestly comes off like he's been cast, like he's a total actor. And just because a guy says he was something doesn't mean he was. I mean, thinking about it, Lou Elizondo comes forward and says, yes, I was the head of ATIP for the government, and for this many years we investigated claims of UFOs, but since then the government's been shut down and I quit. So at that point, there's no backstory for anybody to check up on. You know what I mean? He could just say this, and it is what it is. So when I watch Tom DeLonge's series, I no longer really think that Skyfall has anything to do with Tom DeLonge and his team. And I did wonder for a while, but yeah, I don't think he would want anything to do with the industrial military complex whatsoever. I don't think so. And I think, man, everything about Elizondo just makes me think that he is an actor. It just doesn't seem right. There's just something really wrong in that whole circle. That whole To the Stars thing, there's something really dark and really wrong with that thing. And this isn't like me, wanting to spar my UFO wits with theirs. I'm telling you, there's something wrong with that Elizondo guy. I don't trust him. I think he's an actor. Nobody has any proof that he did anything that he said he did. And how could we ever find out? Because supposedly the program's now defunct. The program that he led for the government to search out UFO stories is now defunct. So we'll never know what actually, took place. So I just don't, I don't. There's just something really, really, really off about the To the Stars Academy. Something really off. So having said that, what's next, right? What is next? Well, I have the third installment of my Sir No Face, Two Face docuseries that's coming out, in which you're going to hear many, many more predictions by Skyfall that are coming true, that are absolutely shocking. Oh, the other one thing that I wanted to point out too, I can't believe I just skipped right over this. It just popped back in my head. In regard to Skyfall making predictions, one of the predictions that he made at the end of Two-Face the Gray was about the re-emergence of, nuclear proliferation. This is going on right now. America's been breaking treaties. Trump's been breaking treaties left and right. Nuclear treaties with Iran, the nuclear treaty with Russia. And Russia just, had a nuclear, bomb go off, in Russia at one of their plants that they were testing things with this, missile to basically, weaponize a nuke that can, fly on the tip of a missile at, supersonic speed. So like crazy stuff is going on now again with, all of the nuclear proliferation. It's back. That era is back. It's back. And if you totally watch Two-Face the Gray at the very end of it, that is what Skyfall is talking about. Is that there was a time where we signed the treaty and we left the nukes alone. And now he says, we're re-involved with it again. And it appears that we are. It appears that we are. So, as far as the future goes, yes, in Phantom Rider, you are going to hear a lot of new predictions from Skyfall that are mind-blowing. Plus, he gave me some things that I can't wait for you guys to see what he gave me. Because it's been freaking me out to even be holding it in my possession. But so many things are going to make sense when you see Phantom Rider. So many things are going to make sense. And I can't wait until you could actually see what he gave me, because now his predictions are going to carry so much more weight than they did before. So totally fascinating stuff coming. Just so you guys know, we're not going to make the 28th as far as the release date, which is like 3 days from now. But there's many, many reasons for that as well too. So I will be posting the official new release date coming up. It's definitely going to be before Halloween. There's just a lot going on behind the scenes right now, and I'll be able to make some official announcements here very soon. But I just wanted, everybody to know, it's going to be a couple weeks longer than we thought as far as the release goes. And that's just because I need pure time to finish it up and finish it right. So I really hope you guys take the time to watch the film when it comes out, because there are real events that are going down right now, guys. Real truth is out there, and I really think that there's a very real situation that we're all living through right now. So much love, guys. Thank you all for listening. I will continue to update people on this story and everything that's going on right now, and that's all I could say. I hope you guys enjoyed the In a Crowded Room podcast. I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.